What's going on, guys? It's Fear Turbo here, and today I'm with my Mystic build for the Templar healer. This build is basically just going to focus on debuffing the enemies the best as possible, debuffing their damage, and really giving our DPS the sustain they need, the damage buffs they need, and obviously keeping people alive. Um, Something unique about this build is that I'm extremely tanky to magic damage. Magic, flame, shock, fire, frost, all that damage. I'm extremely tanky versus that damage, which is going to save me sometimes during, vet AA or VMall, etc. Which is really nice because you're looking out for other people, and sometimes you might get hit pretty hard. So let's get right into the gear. The gear will be mending. We're going with the 5-piece mending. I don't have it all golded out because I'm not really a main healer, but it is a very good set. Basically, when you use an area of effect heal ability, you reduce the weapon damage of all enemies within 10 meters of you by 420. So it's basically you're debuffing the mobs. The mobs, to me, basically just have damage. They don't have spell or weapon damage. They just have damage. So this reduces magic damage as well. So don't be misguided. I know it says weapon damage, but it's the mob's damage. Which is really nice because there's a lot of overlapping damage. So if you can reduce the damage, you're going to help out your team, which means you don't have to heal as much, or maybe they won't get one shot, etc. But there still is one shots, so you can't heal everything. Spell power cure. Now, this is pretty much mandatory because it's the best set for damage, giving your friendly targets damage. So this setup is debuffing the enemy's damage and giving your team damage. I wish it was 420 like this. That'd be sick. But it's 249, or if it was golded, it'd be more. And the way I'm running this is mending jewelry with should be divines or infused, chest and pants. It could be any slots, but basically you see this little, you're probably looking at this like, what the hell? So I have spell power cure staffs. Now I don't have the resto, but I'm going to get it pretty soon because I like this setup a lot. One-piece pirate skeleton helmet, which the one item gives me a ton of resistances towards spell and physical. For some reason, Chuden, it doesn't give as much as this one piece, even though they're practically the same one piece. I'm not really sure why. We can use a heavy piece here. Usually all healers are in all light, but we can afford it because we have spell power cure staffs. So we're going to go with one heavy to give us even more tankiness. I kept the health enchant on there because it just helped out my health pool. I don't want to be low. Basically, as a healer, you and the tanks are the last to die. If it happens, you guys should be the last to die. So 5-piece mending, 5-piece spell power cure, and the way I have it is 4 armor slots. So 1, 2, 3, 4, and then a staff. You want a lightning staff, and we'll go over that in just a second. And take notice to this enchant because I don't think anyone uses it. I was just looking around like, what do healers use as enchants? And I was thinking, well, they probably use the crusher one so they can get more damage out. And that's just bland to me. So I was looking around, and this reduces the target's weapon damage and spell damage by 348. Which we know we can reduce mobs' damage with the mending set by 420. This one is almost the same and is an enchant, which is insane. You can replicate it. So I don't have a spell power cure resto staff, but you'll need one so that the uptime on spell power cure is 100% possible from you. So you want to run 2 spell power cure staffs. Probably just do both of the same enchant, or Actually, on the front one, you should just do spell damage, or no, you should do Crusher, and on the back one, you should do reduce target weapon damage, weakening. Now this is freaking awesome, and basically, so when you know the boss is about to stomp, do something where you need to block, or there's people need to shield, that's when you can put this. You control when the enchant is going to go off because it has a cooldown. But if you don't ever light attack with this staff when you don't have to, then you won't proc the enchant. So basically, when Rakat jumps up and is about to switch pads and he does a big slam, he ports to the pad and then he's going to jump up in the air. So you can just give him a good shock, and then boom, it won't do as much damage. Or Manticora, you shock him right before he stomps, or during poison phase as a serpent, you give him a good shock beforehand, or when he's doing Eclipse Tears, etc., etc. So basically, you can time it if you want to. Now, an important part is this is defending. You want both of your staffs defending, and there's a reason for that. So, like I said, we're really tanky. If we take a look at our stats, I know this is in the way of my buff timers, but bear with me. So if we look at our stats, just from standing here, I have 26k spell resistance, 15k physical resistance. I have 18k health before Warhorn. I have 36, almost 37k magicka. My magicka recovery is 1,709. And we will take a look at once I buff up. So when I do combat prayer, I get hit as well. Oh shoot, did not mean to do that. Now I have 34k resistances and 22k physical resistance. So now I am like extremely tanky. I'm just really tanky right here. And so with that being said, when I get hit with magic damage stuff, I have time to react, maybe get a shield, because my shield's only on one bar. And what if I'm healing and I'm about to get hit with something really hard, or I've got the cats on me and the boss is blowing up on the first boss of Beamall. Like I'm pretty dang tanky as a healer, which is really nice. Another thing to note is I'm using the Thief. Just disregard this. This was a Templar tune, but for some reason he's a werewolf. So I'm using the Thief. I don't have any magic problems. When I use a pot, I'm at almost 2k recovery. And so we'll talk about the bars here for a second. Healing Springs is basically another way to gain magicka back. As you see, I restore magicka for each friendly target hit by the initial hit up to 3 targets. So I'm getting magicka back when I hit them. With the pot, I'm at 55.8% critical. So my heals are going to be critting, which means they do more. Also, we want 1 Adric Spear ability on the front bar, so we can get the critical damage while slotted passive. And critical damage also affects your critical heals. So we want that on the front bar when we're doing our springs and whatnot, and our Breath of Lives. Combat Prayer, because it gives a lot of buffs for damage and for defense buffs. Breath of Life is pretty much a no-brainer. That's your go-to heal if you gotta heal somebody in a pinch and they're not in an area where you can just healing springs them. This is your main heal. This is your buff, which also can be a heal. I like to use Combat Prayer as a heal as well. So when Rakat slams, instead of I just have 1 healing springs out. After he slams, boom. I also like to mainly heal with the orbs over healing springs as well, just because I'm doing 2 things in one. I'm giving the players the ability to gain magicka back, as well as healing and proccing spell power here. Light's Champion. Now, this is probably, you don't see this in everyone's build for trial healing, because the thing is, you want a high uptime on major force, and this gives everyone major force for 9.5 seconds, and it gives them the big stat pool. What this lacks is it doesn't hit everyone, but what it does is it provides healing, damage reduction, and the same crit buff up to 5 people in a pinch, and it costs 96 ult. That's what it does, and it does it good. And I highly recommend this, even for veterans or for new beginners. It's just something that is so useful. It's just not optimal. I wish it was different or longer, or we could somehow get this buff, the max magicka health stamina, on something else, and be a little bit more creative with this. I also wish healers had better One Piece items than the Master Restoration Staff. 250 stamina back isn't going to make or break anyone at all. Like, that is so low. I don't understand it. And there's no good 2 pieces for healers to really sacrifice for the 2 pieces. I wish there was more 2 pieces for tanks and healers altogether, but this is what we got. So on the back bar, we're using Ellie Drain. You could use Aura, the other morph of Repentance, but this just gives the spell damage, the Major Breach debuff, which is pretty much you're giving your team damage on some things that may not be taunted, like the mini mages in AA, etc. It also gives your allies minor magic steal if they attack that is Ellie drained, which is extremely important. This is a shield, also a little bit of a sustain. You don't necessarily need it versus magicka damage because we're so tanky, but it is going to cover you for overlap damage. Blockade of Storms. So why do I have this on my bar? Well, let's see. Basically, it's going to things that are affected by this skill could become off balanced, and if they are off balanced, your team gets 10% extra damage, and that's what Wall of Elements does. Setting concussed enemies off balance for 4 seconds. So I use this in a boss fight, I use this in trash, and your team gets to use this if they have 75 points in here, Thaumaturge, which pretty much everyone right now is doing. So that's why I use that. Also, it helps me get magicka back from Ellie Drain. Extended Ritual, just as an extra hot for Spell Power Cure, also is a nice synergy for the Purify. If you're in heavy trash that does a lot of bleed dots, basically beam on a nutshell, then you can come to support and put Purge on your bar. It's going to instantly do it, so your teammate doesn't have to click the synergy. And Channeled Focus. So this is my major buffs that are making me extremely tanky, along with 120 regen every 0.5 seconds. So this adds up to like 400 regen, 480 or something. Yeah, 480. It's insane. 480 regen every 2 seconds from this skill. And you got Healing Springs is giving you back magicka along with Harness, and Ellie Drain for your Blockade of Storms. Extremely good. You don't need a whole lot of regen in your build. I probably could have went with maybe some more spell damage on my rings. But better safe than sorry. Better, safe than sorry than to have magicka than to not. Aggressive Warhorn. Obviously, this is your big damage boosting skill to your teammates, and pretty much a must-have when you're a healer or a tank. So that's the build, guys. Let's get into let's just make sure we cover the food. Food is buy stat food. Now, I've been experimenting whether I can take a whole lot of damage, and if I can take a whole lot of magic damage, I was going to basically slot guard and guard a magic assort as I heal, and then having my shield cover the rest of the damage I'm going to take on him. So I wouldn't normally cast shield a whole bunch, but I would just cast it every time I swap to my back bar if I had guard on a teammate. Now you can only do this in certain situations, so I wouldn't guard all the time. The potions I'm using are the spell power potions because we need our major sorcery, we need our major crit. We don't get any of that from any of these skills. Being a healer pretty much makes our bars full to the brim for the group. With that being said, let's get into the champion points. So they're pretty simple, just 100 blessed, 100 elfborn. We have like 55% crit, so our crit chance is pretty high. So we're going to use 100 in elfborn. I have 47 as spell shield. I could take some points out probably, and just put them into hardy. I'll mess around with that, but basically, depending on if your gear is golded out, you'll have more spell resistance from your gear being gold and pirate skeleton being gold as well. So you could probably take some out of here, put them into hardy. Basically 100 magician and 100 into magic regen. Also, before I forget, I am a Breton. The reason how I can get so much spell resistance is because I'm a Breton, and I'm also a Templar, which gives me spell resistance right here as well. So I'm getting 2.6k, I think that's it. So 2.6k there, and almost 4k here. And then the light armor passives are giving me spell resistance along with just having light armor on. And my major buffs here, and my minor buffs here. That's how my resistances are so high. So guys, if you like this build, if you like this tankier build that really debuffs the enemies through enchants and mending, before I forget, I know a lot of people are going to ask me. I think it's called Healing Mage. Yeah, you can find mending in AA. Pretty easy to get in AA. I think you can do it in normal, but I'm not sure. Also, I have 5 points into health just because when we have a Warhorn up, I just want to be super tanky to where I can cover my teammates, not have to worry about myself. With the Warhorn, I'm sitting at like 20k health, almost 21, I think. So guys, if you like the build, leave a comment down below. If you have any questions, if I forgot to cover something, as always, then definitely leave a comment and ask a question. Don't be shy, just ask away, no problem. Also check the description down below. There'll be more information and updates about this build in the future. Thank you guys. Have a good day.